Well, I have several purposes. One, I wanted to show the relevance of history, that history not only recreates and reanimates our past, but that history can be a guide to the future. Secondly, I wanted to send a message. The keys are not just a trick for predicting elections. They have a message, and the message is a big one. The keys essentially gauge the strength and performance of the party holding the White House. In other words, American elections are basically votes up or down on whether the party holding the White House should be given another 4 years. So the big message here is that it is governing, not traditional campaigning, that counts. Govern well, and your party will likely be reelected. I'll take it. Why not? You know, it's not one I've carved out for myself, but if people want to use it, that is okay with me. Look, I got to tell you, my first prediction was 1982, almost 40 years ago. I'm 73, and I still get butterflies in my stomach every time I put myself on the line to make a prediction. But I got to tell you one thing. The hardest thing in being a good forecaster is not knowing history, or you got no history. It's not knowing math, or you got no math. It's not knowing politics, or you got no politics. It's putting aside your own personal political preferences. If I just forecasted according to my politics, I'd be wrong. And I always tell people, these are predictions, not endorsements. And again, it's not so easy to put yourself on the line every 4 years, because I know what's going to happen if I'm wrong. A lot of people are going to take satisfaction in pointing that out, and that's fine. I can take it. Can I be wrong? Of course I can be wrong. I'm a human being, you know. I don't have a pipeline to God like Donald Trump claims to have in his evangelical supporters. My system is based on analysis and history. And, you know, if I hit 9 out of 10, that wouldn't be bad either, but I don't expect to be wrong. It's the world's only do-it-yourself prediction system. You can't create one of those big econometric equations that are used for predictions, but you can answer the 13 keys. The reason I've been right, and I think, you know, consistently for 40 years, is like, unlike the polls and the pundits or the big equations, my system is based on an understanding about how American presidential elections really work. The keys are not just some lucky random factors. They are based upon the notion that elections are votes up or down on how well the party in power has governed. And this is part of our secret, is we reinterpreted presidential election, but in geophysical terms, as stability. The party in power keeps the White House, and earthquake, the party in power loses. And that reconceptualization enabled us to develop keys based on the dynamics of what determines stability and earthquake. That's why this system is so robust, because it has survived through such enormous changes in our politics, our history, our economics, our demography. You know, every 4 years, someone says to me, oh, your system won't work this year because we have an African American running and that's new. It won't work because we have a woman running. And I tell them it's worked through vastly greater changes than that. And although Trump acknowledged my prediction of his win, he never understood the meaning of the keys, which is that governing, not campaigning, counts. And instead of dealing substantively with these challenges, he thought he could talk his way out of it, reverting to his 2016 playbook when he was the challenger. Now he's the incumbent, he's judged on his record. And you can't talk your way out of these problems. And the result was he lost 3 additional keys. The short-term economy key, because we're in recession. The long-term economy key, because the negative growth has pulled our economy down so far. And the social unrest key, because of what's raging across the land. So my final prediction is that Donald Trump will be the only president since George H.W. Bush in 1992 to lose a re-election bid. And this reversal is the most dramatic, most sudden reversal of fortune for an incumbent party in the history of the country, and Trump has no one to blame but himself. But I think she's an important pick nonetheless, because she is a recognition on the part of the Democratic Party of the multiracial future of America, picking a multiracial woman. We're heading to become a majority-minority society. We're not going back to Donald Trump's vision of a bunch of old white guys like me running America. You know, old white guys are the most shrinking part of the electorate. The future lies with a multiracial society. Oh, very much so. And so does his staff.
Can he, in any ways, sort of manipulate or make the environment so that the environment can be favorable to him now that the 13 keys are all revealed?
Very smart question, and it requires a pretty deep answer. Number one, he's doing that already. He engineered this treaty between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, and apparently Jared Kushner went to his buddy, the emir, whatever you call him, the dictator of the UAE, offered him all this fancy U.S. weaponry to set up this bogus treaty that changes nothing, but Trump calls it a great historic accomplishment. Absolutely, he's trying to turn a key. I don't think it's going to work, but he's certainly trying to do it. There are a couple of other things that Trump is doing outside the realm of the keys or any prediction system that do keep me up at night and have me worried about our democracy in this election. One is voter suppression. You can see Trump viciously attacking voting by mail, while he's voting by mail himself, of course. And voting by mail is an essential alternative in the middle of a pandemic. Other thing that worries me is Russian intervention. We know the Russians are back. They may be more sophisticated, and he's already doing it. Trump will welcome and exploit any Russian intervention on his behalf. Those are the two things that keep me up at night. What does worry me is Trump won't accept the results. No matter what the results are, he'll say it was rigged. He really won. Doesn't mean he's going to barricade himself in the White House and get, you know, the white supremacist militia to defend him, but he'll go to his grave saying, I really won. I was cheated. The presidency is a constitutional office. It's not something granted by God. It's not a divine office. When we set up our Constitution in the 18th century, we specifically rejected the idea of the divine right of kings and divinity or heredity as a means of succession. The president, above all, should be the servant of the people, and the president's first and most critical priority is to serve the American people, not himself. They're perfectly good for snapshots, but that snapshot changes. And how do you know how the snapshot has changed? You take another poll and so on and so on. The other problem with the polls is they're not actually polling voters. So the error in the polls is really larger than they tell you. But I have nothing against the polls so long as they're not misused.